Michael Thornton sat in his spacious office on the top floor of a skyscraper in the center of New York City. The panoramic windows overlooked the cityscape, but the CEO's attention was fixed on his computer screen. He was frowning as he looked over the financial reports of his company, Innotech Solutions. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," Michael said without taking his eyes off the monitor. Jessica Lang, the head of sales, entered the office. Her heels tapped confidently on the marble floor. "Michael, we have a problem," she began without preamble. Thornton looked up with irritation in his eyes. "Jessica, I'm going over the reports. We have a bunch of problems. Which one are you concerned about?" Jessica placed a file folder on the desk. "We're losing clients, big clients." Michael leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. "And why is that?" "Competitors. They offer better terms, more innovative solutions. We're falling behind, Michael." Thornton stood up and walked to the window. His silhouette loomed clearly against the evening sky. "We can't fall behind, Jessica. It's not an option." "I know. But our team, I don't think they're giving it their best shot." Michael turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Jessica sighed. "I'm not sure. It's just a feeling. Like they're not motivated enough, or don't realize the gravity of the situation." Michael rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "We have an important government contract tender coming up. If we miss it—" "We can't miss it," Jessica said firmly. Thornton nodded and went back to his desk. He opened a drawer and pulled out a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. "Drink?" Jessica nodded, and Michael poured them both a drink. "Here's to success in the tender," he pronounced, raising the glass. They clinked glasses, and Michael took a sip. His gaze became detached, as if he was deep in thought. "You know, Jessica," he began slowly, "I think we need to check out our team." Jessica raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Test? In what way?" Michael smiled enigmatically. "I have an idea, but it may seem unorthodox." "I'm all ears," Jessica pitched forward. "What if—" Michael paused. "What if I bid on the tender myself, under the guise of a competitor?" Jessica's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you serious?" That's crazy, Michael." "Maybe," he nodded, "but it's the only way to see how our team operates in real life. No sugarcoating and no excuses." Jessica shook her head. "It's risky. If anyone finds out—" "No one will find out," Michael said confidently. "I'll think it through. I'll set up a shell company, prepare the paperwork. It'll look perfectly legal." "What about your absence here? People will notice." Michael smiled. "Let's say I'm away for important negotiations abroad. You'll be the only one who knows the truth." Jessica thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, I'm in. But Michael, be careful. This game could get out of hand." "Don't worry," Michael finished his whiskey. "I know what I'm doing. This is our chance to not only win the bid, but to really improve our company." He stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the lights of the night city. "We'll start preparations tomorrow. In the meantime, let this remain our little secret." Jessica stood up as well, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "I hope you know what we're getting into, Michael." "Believe me, Jessica," he turned to her with a determined look, "this will change everything." The next morning, Michael Thornton arrived at the office earlier than usual. He wanted to begin preparations for his plan while the building was virtually empty. Entering his office, he immediately dialed the number of his old friend, Tom Baker, owner of a small law firm. "Tom, it's Michael. I need your help, and this has to stay strictly between us." "Good morning, Michael," Tom replied sleepily. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Michael grinned. "I'm fine, but I need to set up a shell company, quickly and without too many questions." A pause hung on the other end of the line. "Michael, are you sure you want to do this? It sounds not very legal." "Trust me, Tom, I'm not going to do anything illegal." This is an experiment. Tom sighed. Okay, I'll help. But if anything goes wrong, I don't know anything about it, deal? Sure thing, friend. Thanks. Finished talking, Michael opened his laptop and began making a list of everything he needed to create a convincing cover story. An hour later, Jessica walked into his office. How's it going? She asked, closing the door behind her. Michael pulled away from the computer. Already making progress. Tom will help with the legal side. Now we need to come up with a compelling story for my new identity. Jessica sat down across from him. And what are you going to be? Michael leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin. I'm thinking, Mark Anderson, a former employee of a large technology company who decided to start his own startup. Ambitious, but not overconfident. Jessica nodded. Sounds good. And the name of the company? Next Gen Solutions, Michael answered without hesitation. A young but promising firm specializing in innovative technology solutions. Impressive, Jessica smiled. You've obviously given it a lot of thought. Michael shrugged. I couldn't sleep all night. Too many ideas in my head. What about looks? Jessica asked. You might be recognized. Michael pulled a small box from his desk drawer. I took care of that. Contact lenses that will change the color of my eyes. He pointed to the laptop screen where an online store page was open. I ordered a wig and a false beard. They should arrive tonight. Jessica shook her head, smiling. You've really thought of everything. But Michael, are you sure this is necessary? Maybe there's another way to test the team. Michael stood up and walked over to the window. Jessica, we're losing ground in the market. Our competitors are outspending us. I need to know what my team is capable of in a real-world environment, without me behind them. He turned to her. I know it's risky, but sometimes you have to take risks to move forward. Jessica sighed. Okay, I'm with you on this. What do I need to do? You're going to be my eyes and ears here, Michael said. Observe the team. Note anything out of the ordinary. Keep me posted on how they react to my absence. Jessica nodded. Understood. And how do we explain your absence to the others? Michael smiled. Let's say I'm away on an important negotiation in Europe. No one needs to know I'm still in town. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Michael and Jessica exchanged quick glances. Come in, Michael said, returning to his desk. Alex Chen, the company's technical specialist, entered the office. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Thornton, he began nervously. But I have some ideas about the upcoming tender. I think we could use a new machine learning technology I've developed. Michael raised his hand, stopping him. Alex, I'm sure your ideas are great, but unfortunately, I don't have time to discuss them right now. I'm leaving for important negotiations in Europe tonight. Alex looked disappointed. But sir, this could be the key to winning the tender. I understand, Michael said softly, but I have full confidence in our team. I'm sure you can manage without me. Jessica will manage the process in my absence. Alex nodded uncertainly. Okay, Mr. Thornton, have a safe trip. As the door closed behind Alex, Jessica turned to Michael. Are you sure you don't want to hear his ideas? They could be helpful. Michael shook his head. No. I want to see how the team works without my interference. It's part of the experiment. Jessica sighed. I hope you know what you're doing. I hope so too, Michael replied quietly, looking at the door behind which a disappointed Alex had disappeared. A week had passed since Michael's departure. There was tension in the Innotech Solutions office. The team was preparing for an important tender, but the absence of the CEO made everyone nervous. Jessica gathered key employees in a conference room to discuss strategy. So, she began, looking around at those present, we have 2 weeks left to submit a bid. How are things going? Samantha Green, CFO, coughed. I've analyzed the project budget. If we want to be competitive, we're going to have to cut our margins. It's risky, but It could give us an edge. Ryan O'Neill, project manager, frowned. Lower margins? Samantha, we're already operating at the limit. If we lower our prices any further, we simply won't be able to deliver a quality project. Do we have a choice? Samantha countered. The competition is stiff. We have to win this bid. Jessica raised her hand, calling for silence. Let's not jump to conclusions. Alex, what do you have? Alex Chen, nervously adjusting his glasses, stood up. I have an idea that could make a difference. I've developed a new machine learning algorithm that can greatly improve the efficiency of our solution. It will give us an advantage without having to lower our prices. Silence hung in the room. Then Ryan whistled. Sounds impressive, Alex, but how realistic is it? Can we implement this in 2 weeks? Alex nodded. If we focus all our efforts on it, yes. I've already run some preliminary tests. The results are encouraging. Jessica tapped her fingers on the table thoughtfully. It's risky. We're offering unproven technology in a major government tender. But that's exactly what it is, Alex exclaimed. Innovation. We are a technology company after all. Emily Wu, the company's lawyer who had been silent until then, raised her voice. Before we make a decision, I must warn of the legal risks. If the new technology doesn't live up to expectations, we could face serious problems. Jessica sighed. I understand the risks, but Alex is right. We need to stand out. The question is, how do we find the balance between innovation and reliability? At that moment, the conference room door opened and a secretary entered. Sorry for the interruption, but we have a new bidder. Next Gen Solutions has just submitted a bid. Jessica tensed, but tried not to show her face. Thank you for the information. We'll factor it into our strategy. As the secretary walked out, a murmur went up in the room. Another competitor. We're screwed, Ryan moaned. Who are these Next Gen Solutions? I've never heard of them, Samantha frowned. Jessica raised her hand, urging calm. Let's not panic. The new bidder doesn't change our task. We still have to submit the best proposal. Alex, who had been silent until then, suddenly perked up. Maybe this is our chance? If we offer something really innovative, we can stand out from all the competitors, including these newcomers. Jessica looked at him carefully. Are you confident in your technology, Alex? The man nodded. Absolutely. I've been working on this algorithm for the last 6 months. It's revolutionary. Jessica closed her eyes for a moment, as if making a difficult decision. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Alex, you have a week to finalize and test your algorithm. Ryan, you'll work with him to integrate it into our proposal. Samantha, recalculate the budget to reflect the new technology. Emily, prepare all the necessary legal documents to protect our intellectual property. Everyone nodded, though they could read the tension on their faces. What about Michael? Ryan asked. Shouldn't we inform him of the situation? Jessica shook her head. Michael has entrusted us with this case. Let's prove that we can handle it on our own. If there's a critical situation, I'll contact him. When everyone had dispersed, Jessica was alone in the conference room. She pulled out her phone and dialed a message. He's in the game. The team is nervous but motivated. Alex suggested a risky idea. We're moving forward. The next day, Michael Thornton, now in character as Mark Anderson, made his first appearance at the Next Gen Solutions office. It was a small but modern space that he had rented specifically for this operation. As he entered the office, he was confronted by a young woman he had hired as an assistant through a temp agency. Good morning, Mr. Anderson, she greeted him with a smile. I'm Lisa, your new assistant. Your first appointment is in an hour. Michael nodded, trying to hold himself confident, but not too cocky. Thank you, Lisa. Coffee would be nice. Settling down at the desk in his new office, Michael took a deep breath. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. Brown wig, false beard, green contact lenses. He barely recognized himself. "Well, Mark Anderson," he muttered to himself, "it's time to start the game." An hour later, a representative of the tender committee, a middle-aged man in a strict suit, entered his office. "Mr. Anderson, I'm John Peterson from the State Procurement Committee. Pleased to meet you." Michael stood up and shook his hand. "Likewise, Mr. Peterson. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us." John sat down across from Michael. "I must admit, we were surprised to receive a bid from your company. Next Gen Solutions is a new name in the market." Michael smiled. "We are young, it's true, but we have experience and innovative ideas. We believe we can offer a unique solution for this project." John raised an eyebrow. "That sounds intriguing, but you do realize the competition is very stiff. We have bids from several major players, including Innotech Solutions." Michael tried to keep a neutral expression on his face. "I'm familiar with Innotech's work. They are certainly a strong competitor, but we believe our fresh perspective and innovative approach can give us an edge." "And what is your innovative approach?" John asked, leaning forward. Michael thought for a moment. He couldn't reveal Innotech's actual technology, but it was risky to talk complete nonsense either. "We've developed a new data processing system that greatly improves efficiency and reduces costs, but I'm sure you realize that I can't reveal all the details until the official presentation." John nodded. "Of course I understand. Well, Mr. Anderson, we look forward to your proposal. Good luck to you." After John left, Michael leaned back in his chair, feeling a cold sweat running down his back. This game was proving more difficult than he had anticipated. Meanwhile, the Innotech Solutions office was a busy place. Alex practically stayed in his office working on a new algorithm. Ryan knocked on his door. "Hey, genius, are you still alive in there?" Alex looked up from his computer, his eyes red from sleep deprivation. "Huh? Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, this thing is more complicated than I thought." Ryan walked into the office carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Here you go. You look like you need it." Alex gratefully accepted the coffee. "Thanks. I've almost finished the basic structure of the algorithm, but there's a problem." "What's that?" Ryan asked, taking a seat on the edge of the table. Alex sighed. "To make this work as I promised, we need a lot more computing power. Our current infrastructure can't handle it." Ryan frowned. "Damn, that seriously complicates things. We can't just go ahead and increase the project budget." "I know," Alex rubbed his eyes. "But without that, our proposal will be, well, just ordinary, nothing special." At that moment, Jessica walked into the office. "How's the work going, guys?" Ryan and Alex looked over at each other. Ryan sighed. "We have a problem, boss." Jessica listened intently to their explanation, her face growing more and more somber. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's think about this. What if we offer a phased implementation? A basic version first, and then, as the load increases, we'll ramp up the capacity." Alex thought for a moment. That could work, but it would increase the project timeline. "Do we have a choice?" Jessica asked. "We have to win this tender, at any cost." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "At any cost? Jess, are you sure? That doesn't sound not really like you." Jessica froze for a moment, realizing that she was starting to think like Michael. "You're right," she said finally. "We won't compromise our principles. Alex, work on optimizing the algorithm. Try to make it as efficient as possible within our current capabilities. Ryan, prepare a presentation that emphasizes our strengths, even if we can't come up with a revolutionary technology." Both men nodded, feeling relieved that they wouldn't have to make any questionable compromises. As Jessica left the office, her phone vibrated. A message from Michael. "Met with the committee representative. They know about our bid. Be careful." Jessica took a deep breath. The game was getting more and more complicated and dangerous. A week passed. At the Innotech Solutions office, the atmosphere was heating up by the day. With only 3 days left until the final proposal was submitted, the team was working almost around the clock. Alex sat at his computer, his eyes red from lack of sleep. He had just finished another test of his algorithm, and the results were ambiguous. At that moment, Jessica walked into his office. "What's up, Alex? Any progress?" Alex rubbed his eyes and sighed. "Yes and no. The algorithm is working, but it's unstable. Sometimes it produces amazing results, and sometimes it just hangs." Jessica frowned. "How serious is it?" "Serious enough," Alex replied. "If we present it in its current form, there's a chance it'll run perfectly during the demo. But there's also the risk of total failure." Jessica sat down on the edge of the table, looking thoughtfully out the window. "What if we give you more time? Would you be able to stabilize the algorithm?" Alex shook his head. "Jess, we have 3 days left. I could work on this for months and still not be 100% sure." At that moment, Ryan walked into the office carrying a stack of papers. "Hey guys, I have an idea for a presentation." "Oh, am I interrupting?" Jessica waved her hand. "No, come on in. We need all the ideas we can get." Ryan put the papers on the table. "I think we should be honest. Present our algorithm as a promising technology in development. Show its potential, but don't promise immediate miracles." Alex raised an eyebrow. "You think that will work? It's not like we're bidding for a startup, not looking for investors." Ryan shrugged. "And why not? We can offer a basic solution that definitely works and add our innovation as a bonus. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we lose nothing." Jessica tapped her fingers on the table thoughtfully. "It's risky, but it may be our only chance to stand out." At that moment, Samantha literally flew into the office, waving some papers. "Guys, we have a problem. I just received information about next-gen solutions." Everyone turned to look at her. Jessica tensed, but tried to keep a calm demeanor. "What kind of information?" Samantha placed the papers on the table. "I asked a friend of mine in the financial sector to do a little investigating. This company, it's a strange one. Registered only a month ago, virtually no history, no real projects." Ryan whistled. "Wow, sounds like some kind of scam. Maybe we should let the bidding organizers know?" Jessica quickly shook her head. "No, we can't do that. We have no proof they're doing anything illegal. We'll just look like alarmists trying to eliminate a competitor." Alex, who had been silent until then, suddenly perked up. "Wait, what if this is our chance? If this company really isn't real, then our proposal with experimental technology might look more attractive against their background." Everyone fell silent, mulling over this idea. Finally, Jessica nodded slowly. "You may be right, Alex, but we have to be careful. No dirty tricks, no sabotage. We'll just make our offer as strong as we can." Ryan clapped his hands together. "Great, then let's get back to work. We only have 3 days left to create something amazing." When everyone had dispersed, Jessica was alone in the office. She pulled out her phone and typed a message to Michael. "Your cover is compromised. Samantha has investigated. Be careful." Meanwhile, in the Next Gen Solutions office, Michael, still in character as Mark Anderson, was preparing for an important meeting. He was nervously adjusting his tie when Lisa entered the office. "Mr. Anderson, your guests have arrived." Michael took a deep breath. "Thank you, Lisa. Show them in, please." A moment later, 3 men in strict suits entered the office. Michael recognized 2 of them. They were members of the tender committee. The third he had seen for the first time. "Good afternoon, gentlemen." Michael stood up, extending his hand in greeting. "Good to see you." John Peterson, whom Michael had met before, introduced his colleagues. "Mr. Anderson, you have already met me. This is my colleague Robert Green, and this is David Foster from the Federal Bureau of Investigation." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. FBI? What's going on? David Foster stepped forward. Mr. Anderson, we have a few questions regarding your company and your participation in this bid. Michael tried to remain calm. Of course, I'm willing to answer any questions. But may I ask what this is about? Foster pulled out a file folder. We received an anonymous tip about possible irregularities in the bidding process, specifically about suspicious activity related to your company. Michael felt his heart begin to beat faster. Who could have sent such a signal? Had someone revealed his true identity? I assure you, gentlemen, Michael began, trying to make his voice sound confident, that our company operates in a completely legal and transparent manner. We're new to the market, it's true, but we have innovative ideas and an experienced team. Foster nodded. Perhaps, but we have to check all the facts. Mr. Anderson, do you mind if we take a look around your office and talk to your staff? Michael realized that refusing would only increase suspicion, but he also knew that his masquerade could be exposed at any moment. Of course, he said finally, but I would like to be present for that, and, if possible, I'd like to contact my lawyer. Foster nodded. That's your right. We'll wait until your lawyer arrives. As the agents left the office, Michael sank into a chair, feeling his hands shaking. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed a message to Jessica. SOS. The FBI is in the office. We may have been compromised. Be prepared for anything. Meanwhile, at the Innotech Solutions office, Jessica received a message from Michael. She turned pale, realizing the gravity of the situation. Shit, she muttered, quickly dialing the number of Tom Baker, the lawyer who had helped them set up Next Gen Solutions. Tom, it's Jessica. We have an emergency. The FBI is at the Next Gen office. You're needed there immediately. Hanging up the phone, Jessica closed her eyes for a moment, trying to gather her thoughts. Then she walked out of her office and headed to the common area where the team was working. Guys, she said, getting the attention of everyone present. I have an important announcement to make. I've just learned that the FBI has opened an investigation into one of the bidders. A murmur went up in the room. Samantha was the first to ask a question. It's Next Gen Solutions, isn't it? I told you there was something wrong with them. Jessica nodded. Yes, they are. But let's not jump to conclusions. We don't know all the details. Ryan frowned. But how does this affect us? It's not like we did anything illegal, right? Jessica took a deep breath. No, we haven't done anything illegal. But this situation could affect the whole bidding process. It might even be postponed or canceled. Alex, who had been silent until then, suddenly asked, Jess, where's Michael? Shouldn't he be here at a time like this? Jessica felt a chill run down her spine. She knew the question would come up sooner or later. Michael, she stammered for a moment, but quickly pulled herself together. He's aware of the situation. I've contacted him and he's working on it from Europe. Emily, the company's lawyer, raised her voice. I think we need to be prepared for the possibility that the FBI might come to us as well. We need to make sure all our paperwork is in order. Jessica nodded. You're right, Emily. Please check everything again. Guys, I know this is a hard moment, but we have to stay calm and keep working on our proposal. We haven't done anything wrong. We have nothing to fear. When everyone had gone to their seats, Jessica returned to her office. She could feel the weight of the lie pressing down on her shoulders. She knew that sooner or later the truth would come out, and the consequences could be disastrous. Meanwhile, in the Next Gen Solutions office, Michael sat across from the FBI agent trying to remain calm. Tom Baker, who had arrived on the scene, sat next to him. Mr. Anderson, began Foster, we've reviewed your company's paperwork. They look too perfect, like someone prepared them very carefully knowing what we'd pay attention to. Michael felt his heart skip a beat. He knew Tom was an excellent lawyer, but perhaps they had gone overboard in their quest to create the perfect cover-up. "I'm not quite sure what you mean," Michael replied. "We're just being very thorough in our paperwork." Foster leaned forward. "Mr. Anderson, or whoever you really are, I'm going to give you one chance. Tell the truth now, and we can resolve this situation with minimal repercussions for all parties involved." Michael felt a drop of sweat trickle down his forehead. He looked at Tom, seeking support, but the lawyer looked just as tense. Time seemed to stop in the small Next Gen Solutions office. "Agent Foster," Michael finally spoke, his voice sounding hoarse, "I understand your suspicions, but I assure you there is no conspiracy or illegal activity." Foster leaned back in his chair. His gaze remained penetrating. "Then explain to me, Mr. Anderson, why a company with such an impressive portfolio and supposedly experienced team came literally out of nowhere just a month ago?" Michael took a deep breath. He realized that every word he said could either save the situation or completely ruin it. "The truth is," he began slowly, "that Next Gen Solutions is an experiment. We're a group of seasoned professionals who decided to create a startup to test a new business model. We wanted to see if we could compete with the big players in the market, starting from scratch." Foster frowned. "And you decided to test that theory with a government tender?" Michael nodded. "We know it's an unconventional approach, but we believe in our ideas and wanted to give them a chance at the highest level." Tom Baker, who had been silent until that moment, intervened. "Agent Foster, my client has not broken any laws. It is not a crime to create a new company to bid on a tender." Foster shifted his gaze to the lawyer. "Perhaps, but withholding information and providing false information is a serious offense." At that moment, the office door swung open, and a panting Jessica ran into the room. Everyone turned to look at her, and a look of horror flashed across Michael's face. "I'm sorry to intrude," Jessica said, trying to regain her breath, "but I have to stop this. I can't let it go on." Foster stood up. "And who are you?" Jessica straightened up, looking straight into the agent's eyes. "My name is Jessica Lang. I'm the head of sales for Innotech Solutions, and I know the truth about Next Gen Solutions." Michael felt the ground go from under his feet. He couldn't believe that Jessica had decided to reveal everything. "Jessica, don't," he tried to stop her, but she shook her head. "No, Michael, enough lies." Foster shifted his gaze from Michael to Jessica. "Michael, I thought your name was Mark Anderson." Jessica took a deep breath. "His real name is Michael Thornton. He's the CEO of Innotech Solutions, and Next Gen Solutions is a dummy company he created to test his own team." A heavy silence hung in the room. Foster looked stunned. Tom Baker covered his face with his hands, and Michael just sat there, unable to move. "I don't understand," Foster finally uttered. "Why would anyone create a shell company to compete with their own firm?" Jessica perched on the edge of the table. "It's a long story, Agent Foster. But if you give us a chance to explain ourselves, I'm sure we can resolve this situation without further misunderstandings." Foster nodded slowly. "Okay, I'm listening. But be warned, any lies will only make your situation worse." Over the next hour, Jessica and Michael told the whole story. About Michael's doubts about his team, about the plan to create a fictitious competitor, about Innotech's hard work on the new algorithm. Foster listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When they finished, the FBI agent was silent for a long time, mulling over what he had heard. "I have to say," he finally said, "that I've encountered many strange situations in my career, but this one is probably one of the most unusual." Michael grinned nervously. "Believe me, Agent Foster, this is not an ordinary situation for us either." Foster stood up and began pacing the room. "Legally speaking, you have not committed a direct crime. Setting up a shell company is not illegal unless it is used for fraud or money laundering. However, he stopped and looked at Michael. Your actions could be seen as an attempt to manipulate the public procurement process. Tom Baker interjected. But my client had no intention of winning the tender with next-gen solutions. It was just a way of assessing the performance of his own team. Foster nodded. I understand, but the fact remains that you provided false information in official documents. That's a serious offense. Jessica, who had been silent until that moment, raised her voice. Agent Foster, I realize we made a mistake, but believe me, we had no malicious intent. We are willing to cooperate fully and do whatever is necessary to make things right. Foster looked at her thoughtfully. I appreciate your honesty, Miss Lang, especially since you came here on your own initiative to uncover the truth. He turned to Michael. Mr. Thornton, I must say that your actions were extremely irresponsible. Not only did you put your company at risk, but you jeopardized the integrity of a government tender. Michael lowered his head. I understand, and I am prepared to take full responsibility for my actions. Foster sighed. Here's what we'll do. I will report the situation to my superiors and the organizers of the tender. There will be an investigation, and you will all have to give formal testimony. Innotech Solutions will likely be disqualified from the current tender, and you could face a temporary ban from government contracts. Michael nodded. I understand. We are willing to cooperate and accept any consequences. Foster continued. As for criminal prosecution, I see no grounds for that at this time, but a final decision will be made after a full investigation. Jessica exhaled a sigh of relief. Thank you, Agent Foster. We appreciate your understanding. Foster headed for the door. I will contact you shortly to arrange formal interviews. In the meantime, Mr. Thornton, I suggest you return to your present office and prepare your team for the events ahead. As the FBI agent left, a heavy silence hung in the room. Michael, Jessica, and Tom glanced around, realizing the magnitude of what had happened. Well, Michael finally said, taking off his wig and false beard, it looks like our game is up. Jessica walked over to him. Michael, I'm sorry that I had to reveal everything, but I couldn't let it go on. Michael smiled weakly. You did the right thing, Jess. I should have realized that this scheme had gone too far. Tom Baker gathered his papers. I'll start preparing our legal defense. We're going to have some tough days ahead of us. Michael nodded. Thanks, Tom. We couldn't have done it without you. As Tom left, Michael turned to Jessica. Do you think the team will forgive me? Jessica sighed. Honestly, I don't. You've seriously damaged their trust. But you're still their leader, Michael. If you're honest with them and show that you're willing to change, we may still have a chance to save the company. Michael nodded. You're right. It's time to stop playing games and start being a real leader. They walked out of the Next-Gen Solutions office one last time, leaving behind the false facade and preparing to face reality. The next few days at the Innotech Solutions office were filled with tension and uncertainty. Michael gathered the entire team in the conference room for an important announcement. As everyone took their seats, Michael stood in front of them, feeling the many questioning looks on his face. Thank you for coming, he began, his voice sounding unaccustomedly quiet. I have an important message, and I'm afraid you won't like it. He took a deep breath and continued. I've made a huge mistake that has jeopardized our company and your trust in me. Over the next hour, Michael told the whole story of the creation of Next-Gen Solutions and his plan to test the team. As he spoke, the faces of the employees expressed shock, disbelief, and anger. When he finished, a heavy silence hung in the room. Finally, Alex stood up, his face red with anger. Are you telling me that all this time while we've been working days and nights on this project, risking our reputations with this experimental algorithm, you've been playing some kind of spy game? Michael nodded. Yes, Alex, and I understand your outrage. Samantha shook her head. I can't believe it. You've jeopardized not only the company, but our careers, our futures. Ryan, who was usually the calmest on the team, looked shocked. But why, Michael? Were you really that distrustful of us? Michael lowered his head. I thought I was doing it for the company. I wanted to make sure we really were the best, but now I see how wrong I was. Emily, the company lawyer, raised her voice. What are the legal ramifications? Are we going to be prosecuted? Michael shook his head. There will be no criminal prosecution at this point, but we are disqualified from bidding and will probably get a temporary debarment from government contracts. A whisper swept through the room. Jessica, who was standing next to Michael, stepped forward. I know you are all feeling anger and frustration right now, and you have every right to be, but I'm also asking you to remember everything we've accomplished together as a team. Over the next hour, Michael laid out his vision for the future of the company. He proposed a restructuring where each team member would be given more authority and responsibility. The algorithm Alex was working on could be the basis for a new line of business. Innotech Solutions was transformed. The company withdrew from government tenders and focused on innovative projects for the private sector. Alex's algorithm, refined and improved, became the basis for a new product that quickly gained popularity in the market. Michael, true to his word, took full responsibility for the next-gen solutions incident. He temporarily stepped back from running the company, handing over the reins to a board of directors that included Jessica, Alex, and other key employees. Innotech Solutions was given a second chance, and Michael was determined not to miss it.